right, let's do it.
You want to intro with your channel? I'm just like a reoccurring guest.
Sure. So what were your impressions of Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse?
I really liked it. And my brother, who I saw it with, also really liked it. I only had like a few minor things that had all bothered me, and they're like the most minor first world nitpicky problems ever.
Yeah, so I was really surprised by this movie. I saw the trailer initially when it came out, and like a lot of people talked about it. And like people that I generally like, that like really like the Marvel stuff, just regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of skeptical. I've never been a huge fan of Spider-Man.
Well,
and
I've been a huge fan of Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's not anything against Spider-Man. It's just like I don't know any of the Spider-Verse-iness, and we'll get into more of that in spoilers. But it kind of went on a whim. I heard really good things, and I was like, I wanted to verify because. And it was really good. Definitely a lot of work was put into it.
Yes.
And I only had a few nitpicky things too, and they're not really like complaints, more just like, you maybe could have done this better. But overall, really great, like family friendly.
Yeah.
There's not like any swearing.
Yeah,
it's a little dark, but like there's no swearing. It's really cool to watch. Like I would watch it again just for the visuals.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just visually.
Visually alone, it's very entertaining and rewatchable.
Yeah. I was surprised to hear that like my brother and dad, who I talk to about movies fairly regularly, said it looked like crap, and like they didn't watch it. They're just like, I heard it wasn't good and it doesn't look interesting to me. And I'm like, it looks interesting. Like at the very least, like watching the trailers, I would feel it looks interesting.
Mm-hmm. I saw some reviews on like the trailer. Like after I watched it, I was kind of curious, and so I'm a nerd, so I did some I looked at like some of the box office stuff, and yeah, unlike the trailer, there was a lot of negative comments about how it looked like it was animated at 30 frames a second. Which I thought was really funny because movies are 30 frames a second.
Yeah.
But
then also that's like
it's a weird criticism, like it's style.
Because it's supposed to look like stop motion, like you're flipping through the panels of a comic book, like really fast. It's like it's supposed to look stop motion almost, or flip book.
Yeah, and that didn't bother me. Once I was watching it, I was like, this is fine.
I mean, all the characters were great. Even like some of the more secondary ones, like the pig Spider-Ham, who you can see in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. Is just like is more of a minor character and more of a goof, is still interesting, and like they're all good characters. I think
I really like the schlubby Peter Parker.
Oh yeah,
and he's just not interested in training Miles at all. No. He just does not care, and he's like a divorced. He's divorced from
divorced middle-aged from Mary Jane,
and not handling it well.
No,
so I really like that. That was kind of fun. Yeah, go see it. Take your kids to it. I'm trying to think. It's not doing super great at the box office. It's.
I haven't. When I first heard like its opening weekend was at like average projection with the 35 million. It was projected between 30 and 40 million, which it hit its projections fairly well. But it also has this Christmas season a lot to contend with.
Well, not in my opinion, but yeah.
But I mean, a lot of movies to contend with, the quality of which may be varying depending on your opinion.
Yeah, I've been watching it. It's at about 149 million domestic and foreign. Its budget is 90 million, so it hasn't even doubled its budget yet, which is.
This one though I think will last a while because with the FU it's January. With January movies being generally terrible, though Glass does come out in January.
We can say fuck.
Can we say fuck?
Sure.
All right.
I think I just did.
I did. Someone can bleep it out. Anyways.
We don't bleep things.
Anyways.
That's too much effort.
I think Glass is the only movie that's going to be out in January that's going to be any good.
Hopefully. We're going to have to do a whole separate discussion on Glass. Please don't suck. Please don't suck.
So I think this one will, just like Jumanji lasted a long time, it was a family-friendly movie, I think this one will be a long-lasting one.
And Jumanji is far less family-friendly than this movie.
Yes.
This movie is like
much
more tame.
Really anyone over 5. can see this.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, I guess it does depend on your children, so don't take that.
Because there's some like violence, but it's still not
It's all
like
comic violence.
Yeah, and even like the more serious sections, which we can talk about in spoilers, aren't really that intense. There's a couple like intense scenes, but there's a lot of lighthearted stuff too. So,
well, I don't know. Do you have anything else before we go into spoilers?
no, just go watch it and buy it on Blu-ray, because otherwise no one's gonna make creative things anymore, and we're just gonna end up with Disney's live action reboots of every property they've ever created. I shouldn't say every property they've ever created. Every property they've ever stolen.
Yes.
And then forced to remain outside of public domain. So, encourage original creative things, and support the artists who put in clearly a lot of work to make this a thing. It blends so many different types of animation. And again, like, even if you don't really care about Spider-Man, I think you can still enjoy it from like a
story standpoint.
From like a good movie that you can watch with your family. It's got a nice, like, heartwarming story.
Oh yeah.
And the visuals are pretty great.
So before we go into spoilers, I have 3 complaints. One of which I will reveal in non-spoiler section because it doesn't really matter. That first complaint is Kingpin's body.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
His head is like here on his body.
Well, and also he's vast.
Well, his vastness doesn't bother me nearly as much as the placement of his head so low on his torso.
Is he usually larger than like your average human?
Yes. Kingpin in the comics is all of that is muscle. He's like 2% body fat. It is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he is just a monster of a man. I mean, he was fat as a child, but then he got buff, very buff. So yes, and that's the only thing I had really like that I can say non-spoilers for my complaints. So I guess we'll go into spoilers.
Spoilers. There's a lot of them.
My second complaint, which took me out of the movie, was the Stan Lee cameo. Partly just because I wasn't prepared for it.
Oh, I really liked it.
Oh, I kind of liked it, but it pulled me out of the movie more than most Stan Lee cameos do. Obviously, all Stan Lee cameos, like, oh, it's Stan Lee. He created all this. It's not part of the movie. It's like meta. But it was just more unexpected and more just... Also because he had just recently died.
Well, I was going to say, now every movie I watch, I'm like, oh, it's Stan Lee.
Yes. And so just like, it was the first one after he died. It was animated. And it's just like, it was more shocking to see Stan Lee or hear Stan Lee.
Yeah, so on the topic of Stan Lee, not necessarily about Spider-Man, but I went and saw Once Upon a Deadpool, because I've never actually seen Deadpool 2.
Oh, yeah.
And I was really curious about the Princess Bride mashup with Deadpool. And so I went and saw that, and I don't know if this is in the original Deadpool 2, and I'm going to assume it's not, because the original Deadpool 2 came out before Stan Lee passed away, but they have a scene when they're like in the city, and it's like an establishing shot, and on the wall, it's a mural of Stan Lee, and then it says R.I.P., and it was really sad.
Oh, yeah, that wouldn't have been in there.
No, and I assume they just like plastered it onto a building, but it was really sad. And then at the end of the movie, like after all the credits and whatever, they had this like mini documentary about, it was just like Stan Lee talking and just saying like encouraging things about like people who do the right thing are the real superheroes.
Well, that was at the end. It was
right.
Well, that's at the end of Spiderverse too, where it's just that Stan Lee quote: "The people who do the right things are the real superheroes." And the last thing that like took me out of the movie was having seen the trailer and knowing Gwen Stacy's haircut with that weird buzz on the side. As soon as Miles' hands got stuck to her, I'm like, "This is how," and I'm just like, "This is exactly how she got her hair." And I'm like, I was just like, ugh, and it's like mildly annoyed just because like it was just very obvious that this is what's happening, and just this movie I was surprised like how often I was pulled out of it just by like the meta knowledge that I had of it, which was still enjoyable to watch, but there was a lot of meta knowledge that I had on this one that a lot of Marvel movies in comic book nerd movies I do have a lot of, but this one I just noticed it a lot more. Maybe that's me being more analytical of myself, but I just noticed a lot of times I was pulled out of it.
Yeah.
Just like observed outside.
And I didn't really have that because I don't really. I assumed all of the things I was seeing were real things, but I don't know. Like I didn't know. I mean, I knew who Miles Morales was and Peter Parker.
Yeah.
That's about it. And obviously, like the Rogues Gallery, I knew who all they were.
Yes. I didn't realize at the time, but there was actually the 6 villains in the movie, so it's like the Sinister Six.
Yeah. That's also the only other thing I know about. Was there Kingpin, Scorpion? We're really in spoilers now. Kingpin, Scorpion,
Green Goblin.
Oh, that's right,
Prowler.
I have a question about that. Continue.
Kingpin, Scorpion, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Prowler, and Tombstone. The white vampire looking guy.
Oh, that's his name. I didn't know who he was.
Yes.
I did not recognize him. Does Green Goblin sometimes appear as a giant dragon goblin?
In alternate universes.
Okay, I figured because Scorpion had like
the robot legs.
Yeah, like mechanical legs.
Yes.
And I was like, that's not how I remember Scorpion.
I'm not familiar with, and then having kind of paid attention to like some of the stuff. I don't think there's a Green Goblin that big in Monsters, but this is also very stylistic. Mm-hmm. Just like there's also, not to my knowledge, any like main, at least in like the Miles Morales universe, a female Doc Ock. That's not a thing in Miles Morales universe.
Yeah. So since you brought that up, well, let's go back to the beginning. So, I'm a big fan of Miles Morales. I didn't know he had different powers than Peter Parker. That was a weird thing for me. Again, not knowing anything. I didn't realize he had electricity and
invisibility.
Yeah. That was not a thing I know. I don't know how I feel about that. But
that's a yes. Because I have not paid attention in a little while to like comic stuff. I forgot that, and then that was another thing that pulled me. I'm like, wait, that's right, he has those powers. I knew this.
Yeah, I looked it up when I got home because again, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is a real thing. Yeah. That's one of the things I'm pretty proud of the movie for doing is really embracing like the weird comic booky stuff.
Yep.
And I know a couple Marvel movies have done that. Like Guardians of the Galaxy is not really a well-known property, and they managed to make that kind of goofy. And like not self-aware, I don't think you can call it, but it's much more silly than like Iron Man and whatever. But that I really appreciate that they like stuck to how ridiculous it was, like Spider-Ham and
some of the other ones. Oh, Spider-Man Noir.
The
most ridiculous ones.
Nicolas Cage is the voice of Spider-Man Noir, and I didn't know that was a thing I needed, but
and he sees in black and white.
He doesn't have a lot of lines, but it's just great knowing it's Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Spider-Man Noir is from a dimension that is black and white. I mean, literally like a black and white movie. Spider-Man Noir is hard-boiled. He's probably the edgiest of the Spider-Men. Think Raymond Chandler, think Paul Kane, those great old detective novels. He's a private eye, and he's fighting Nazis.
Which is pretty great.
Yeah, so I was gonna kind of wanted to talk about like start to finish because I know there's stuff. It's been a few days since I've seen it, so kind of a refresher. It was a little slow in the beginning, but I still like the way that they like kind of introduced you to the person of Miles Morales as opposed to just giving him the suit right away.
And he had there's a lot of setup for all the characters and and all the emotional stuff that would pay off later as well.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff, and like even like his uncle, I kind of saw that coming, especially when he went to his apartment.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, that's a little too coincidental. But his uncle being
the Prowler, which is the same character that Donald Glover is playing in the MCU.
Donald Glover for Spider-Man. It's too late. That ship sailed. He's a little old now too, I guess. He's not really. Because Miles Morales is pretty young.
Yeah.
Quit fucking with the mic.
Your wiggles are way bigger than mine, and that's what I'm afraid
I have bigger wiggles.
Jordan has much bigger sound wiggles than I do, and it makes me self-conscious of my body.
Do I need to minimize it so you quit looking at it? But yeah, they took time to like introduce him.
Because like halfway, like the Prowler is like starting to chase him, and before like it really like would click in, just like, oh, it's gonna be his uncle. I'm like, wait, they're related. I'm like, and that's another thing that pulled me out.
Yeah, I remember that like in the comics when I saw the Prowler, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, it's his uncle, isn't it? Because in Homecoming, again, I didn't know that until we watched Homecoming, and you were like, yeah, actually that's his uncle, and that was the Prowler. I'd like to see a Prowler in the MCU just because I want Donald Glover to get.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to have Donald Glover do it. I mean, they're gonna do 3 at least.
Get the Dong Lover.
Oh yes,
he's the best.
Yes,
the man can't do any wrong.
Can do anything he wants. Yes. So then he gets his powers, or right as he gets his powers, he goes and witnesses Chris Pine Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Chris Pine voices
Oh yeah, I knew
Yeah.
that. The blonde Peter Parker.
the blonde Peter Parker. The Miles Morales is Peter Parker, and witnesses him die. And I love how this Peter Parker, even like right before he dies, he's like, "I got it, kid. Go on, I'll be there." He's like, this is super confident. He's been Spider-Man. He knows what's up, and he gets crushed.
Yeah, they did the. It was kind of interesting how they did the passing of the torch thing, and that was actually really sad
Yeah.
when he dies, and then you see. I'm embarrassing myself now because I don't know the names of people. His wife,
Vanessa or Mary Jane?
Mary Jane.
Oh,
Oh
yes,
my gosh.
Mary Jane.
That was really sad, and then she's like speaking at his funeral, and there's all the people there with the Spider-Man outfits.
Yeah.
And I really like how he just gets a garbage, like a shitty costume
Yeah,
that
just like-
looks exactly like one my brother had. Like they act,
Oh,
it's,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's identical to a real one.
Yes, oh,
and that
yeah.
was kind of cool. It doesn't, because sometimes in cartoons and stuff they'll heighten things to make it look more realistic.
Yeah.
And that would be just lame because it's so pathetic to see him walking around in this like kid spider
Yeah.
suit that's just completely fake. Like it's such a Halloween costume.
Oh yeah.
And I like that. And then when he's standing in the crowd, and it's still really sad when they're like at the funeral and Mary Jane's speaking, and he's
like,
she says something about like
you can
be the Spider-Man that we need now, or like some
Yeah.
superhero death speech thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can do it. And the guy next to him's like, I think she was just talking more generally, not about you specifically. I thought
Oh,
I
yeah.
actually laughed, and,
Oh,
and
that was
so
good.
I was,
Yeah.
I was surprised by that.
I also like that as well, because then he obviously when he visits Peter Parker's grave, he then is met by Peter B. Parker,
Which is the
schlubby 20
divorced-
the one who's been
not a divorced dad, but
you know, basically who cries. And my favorite, like
that montage.
the montage was great, where it's just like all how depressed he was. But my favorite when he was just crying in the shower in his Spider-Man suit.
Yeah, it reminded me of Tobias Funke from Arrested Development, just
Oh, yeah,
crying in the shower.
but yeah.
And then since you brought up the montages, I really liked how they did a montage for every one of the characters, but each time it got faster because it's like, I'm Peter Parker and I'm Spider-Man, and it was kind of the same thing, like they followed the same formula, but it got faster and faster and faster, and then like the narrator would always be like we've been here before,
Yeah.
but here's like the
Yeah.
shortened version. They were all a little bit different because
Yeah.
each one was from a
Has their-
different
yeah.
multiverse.
And speaking of that, Peter B. Parker is from B616. That was his universe.
Sure.
Which just Universe 616 is the main Marvel comic timeline. So I'm assuming they had the B in front of them. All of the universes had B. So I'm assuming that's like so they don't mess up any comic book timelines. But they are comic book universes, but they still like. I'm assuming they're all like with their numbers correct because I know
Didn't know.
616 is main timeline, and I noticed that
Is
there's
there a significance of the 616?
I have no idea. It's just the one they picked.
Okay. I'm just
Um,
curious.
But but I'm assuming since it's not like Peter Parker, I'm assuming it's like just they added the B to be like this is like kind of Peter Parker, but also we're gonna play it loose when you want to.
Yeah,
just-
yeah.
And then they end up infiltrating. Is there anything before the infiltration of the science place?
No, well, they kind of did their, I guess, big reveal. Well, I guess they had a few different big reveals, but they did the big reveal of Doc Ock, which I really liked.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Again, with like the multiverses and whatever, you're not really expecting it
Yeah.
because they show her early in the classroom.
Yeah.
And she just looks like some nutty
that's
professor
a-
person,
yeah,
and you're like, eh. And I like kind of forgot about her, and then I saw her again, and I was like, oh, it's like, oh, she's part of the school system or whatever, so she has this real clean persona, but
Yeah.
she's actually just Doc Ock.
Yeah.
And that whole part was fun, especially when they're escaping. I really like that, and they're swinging through the trees, and
Or
they
I
start
like
to
to-
kind of get in a rhythm.
Yeah. I liked even before that though when Peter Parker is obviously like a genius and Miles is not, and he memorizes like the 16
Oh,
character
yeah.
random passwords, like memorize A6 apostrophe, and this like goes on for like 16
Jay
characters.
just watches her type it.
Yeah.
Um,
Or then when he's done it so long, he's like, you have 24 hours. He predicts like everything the King.
Oh yeah, and they start making fun of tropes in superhero movies,
Yeah.
which was really fun. As
Yeah.
like, and that's something that an adult can enjoy and understand.
Yes.
Who would have thunk that Lord and Miller, the guys who did 21 and 22 Jump Street, can make really good kids, like my
Yes.
favorite kids movie. I don't want to call them kids movies, but like family
Yeah.
entertainment.
Yeah.
Because I love the Lego Movie. That movie's way better than it has any
Well,
right to
this
be.
was only produced by them.
It was written they have writing credits on it, I believe, as
Which
well.
I think is the same for the Lego Movie too. They
directed the Lego movie.
No, Lego Movie
not
2.
the second one though, and I'm a little worried about
They
that.
have they are producers and they are active producers in it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think I think Lego Movie 2 will still feel their influence.
I think so, but like again, I went to the Lego Movie at the budget because my family was like, "Hey, want to go see a movie?" And I had zero expectations for it, kind of like this movie. And that's like one of my favorite animated movies ever, I think, just because.
And I think it's
Excuse
interesting
me.
that they both have unique like animation styles.
Oh yeah, well, and then that I was just gonna bring that up is like the Lego Movie had a crazy cool style that really feels. I mean, everything looks like Legos.
Oh yeah.
It's not. They don't cheat.
No.
Everything looks like Legos, and even like the water is like bricks that move up and down.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with this. This has a very distinct visual style.
Oh, yeah.
It's somebody's vision.
Yes.
Disney doesn't do that.
I also like the use of like the text bubbles a lot of the time.
Oh yeah.
That was interesting. Where like there's some of the thought bubbles, which a lot of times were spoken as well,
Mhm.
or the little like flips you could see when they were swinging and getting into that rhythm.
Yeah, it gave me like flashbacks to the '60s Batman. A little less campy,
Yes.
but yeah, they definitely like. Again, like it was somebody's vision, and it didn't feel like it was a movie that had like studio involvement. It felt like it was very much allowed to kind of just do whatever it wanted, and that's why I want it to do well, because otherwise you end up with DC movies where it's just like it's the same movie over and over and over again. It's the same gritty tone. They just need enough people to watch it to make money.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit. But with this, it felt like a lot of people. I don't know, but it seemed like I feel like if you watch behind the scenes stuff for it, it would have had fun making.
Yeah.
Like the animators would have had fun because of all the different styles, and it's really hard to explain. I guess you get a little bit from the trailer. They don't show a whole lot.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good jokes. I like the good news, kid. You don't need the monitor.
Oh yeah, well, I was just gonna say like the humor is better than some Marvel movies.
it's
I actually
really
I found it funny.
No, I like the humor a lot. I tend not to laugh out loud, which I don't remember doing, but it was good chuckles at the very least.
Yeah, and I don't usually laugh out loud at any movies, and so if you get a chuckle, that's a pretty Because I'm not like I don't like to be a loud person in a theater, especially. Don't be a dick at a theater and be loud. You can enjoy it internally. You can say you loved it afterwards, but just shut up.
Yes.
No, I actually really enjoyed. Like I felt like almost all the jokes landed for me, which is really rare for a Marvel movie and really extra rare for like a kids movie.
Yeah.
Because usually there's some humor that's directed at adults, but I felt like even the stuff that was directed at kids was still funny.
Yeah.
Like it was done. The timing was right. And it's not like it's a complicated story either.
No.
I mean, the whole like the older bringing up the younger. That's that you see that in a whole lot of movies, or like mentoring. But I felt like they still managed to have fun with it and have like a heartwarming. There was ups and downs. There was sad parts like when Peter Parker dies, and then when you find out that his uncle
is a villain.
The
Prowler. But before that, there's the reveal that Gwen Stacy is a spider person.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the trope really kicks in, where I've been Spider person for 2 years, and I thought I was the only one, and this is my story for I've been fighting people and I've lost, and so that's where the trope like the.
And up until that point, the movie's still pretty normal.
Yes.
And then you get what's her name? Penny Parker. Penny Parker, who's like a robot. Well, she's not a robot.
She was
She's
bitten by a
Japanese.
radioactive spider that the spider has like mental control over the robot suit.
And her father died.
And her father died, so she is mentally connected to the spider, which is connected to the suit, which then she can control. Then there's obviously Spider-Ham and Spider-Man Noir, who sees in black and white.
It's just it's really fun, and then
I love it how he just has his shop. Peter B. Parker's talking about how he just has a shop back at Aunt May's house, and then this universe's Spider-Man has the Spider Cave, and he's just like, mine's just a little bit smaller.
And that made sense too. That didn't feel too contrived, just because again, like there are similarities between the universes, and so that didn't feel like it was just like we have to go here now. It made sense because the different ones are similar.
And like those were now that we've said them all, those were the Spider-Men that were in the trailer, and I was interested to see if there's gonna be like more surprise
Yeah,
ones.
I was a little. I mean, you don't want your cast to get too big.
Yeah.
But I was kind of surprised that they kind of showed them all in the trailer. But I
Yeah.
guess they kind of wanted to give people, this is what you're gonna get if you go see this.
Yeah, it's true. And then there is the end credit scene, which has another one, I guess.
Yeah. But wow, Aunt May is a badass in that universe.
There's a lot of universes.
I really liked her. Because she didn't just feel like
An old lady.
Spider-Man's aunt.
There's a lot of versions. That was like I mean, it's a terrible idea, but they were gonna make the Aunt May movie, with her being the badass version of Aunt May.
No, I like that. And again, it's just like, well, this is the version that's a badass. There's other
Yes.
ones that are just normal Aunt May. That's why you can get away with so much with this. And
Yeah.
they shouldn't overuse it. Like, I'd like to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
a sequel with
Well, I think there
the
is a
same
sequel.
Yeah, but not necessarily like. I mean, I'd be fine even watching a sequel that was just like Miles Morales. You didn't even have like any of the crazy
Yeah.
multiverse. Not that the multiverse stuff is bad, because
Yeah.
like I said, I appreciate that they had a style and they had a vision. They committed to it. The wackiness and the
Yeah.
the multiverse stuff is weird. But I wouldn't even mind. I'd go watch just like a Miles Morales
Yeah.
movie. Like now that he's gotten his suit, because there's very very little of him with his actual suit.
Yes.
I was actually kind of surprised how late in the movie
He gets it.
he
yeah.
gets his suit.
Yeah.
Because it's like the end. It's
Yeah.
the third
final
act.
fight
It's
scene.
it's the
even
climax.
yeah, it's like the fight scene is it. The
Yeah.
final fight scene.
And so then he's just wearing that
Yeah.
the Halloween costume.
Because really, the rest of like the plot is they fail to get what they need. They're found by the villains. His uncle dies, and it's just like, you're not good enough to be Spider-Man, so we're gonna have to stop them. Because we haven't even mentioned the fact that like the Spider people are glitching out of their universe.
Oh right, yeah, they do the thing that Stargate does, or anyone where you introduce multiverses, which is you're like, crap, how do we prevent every story in the future from having just people popping in and out
Yeah.
from other universes? Well, they're unstable because they're in a universe that's
Yes.
not their proper one, which makes sense.
Which
And-
I like for this case, but if they do another multiverse movie, I think that I'd get really sick of that trope.
well, they already gave themselves an out with the after credit scene, which was the independent traveling
Yes.
via the device.
Yeah, which
Which I think gives themselves
Yeah,
kind of an
I
out.
mean, since we can just say like it's the technology's better, whatever. We don't have to deal with it anymore because it was good in this one, but I think I would get sick of seeing it for 2 or even 3 movies.
Well, that's what I was saying.
of
Is
glitching
I
out.
would like to see a movie that's not even. I'm fine with having a sequel that has the Spider-Verse again.
Yeah.
But I'd be fine even just watching
Well, here's
a
the thing.
regular Spider-Man.
They can spin off just with this like 6 different universes
Mhm.
because they can do Peter B. Parker, Miles Morales, and any like Spider-Gwen. They could do just
Peter B.
one.
Parker could be a rom-com where he gets his life back
Well,
together.
he kind of does get his life back together a little bit.
Yeah, I guess.
So they could just like stretch that out. I mean, even a Spider-Ham movie, if you do like a cheap budget, would be an interesting, like a very kids movie.
I don't know about that.
But, I mean,
that might be a little too far.
Yeah, not an interesting, but it'd be like
Stretching
a
the,
kids movie.
Mhm.
Which that is just like, do you know his Spider-Ham's origin?
No.
It's the most.
Did
nuts.
they talk about it in the?
A little bit, but I also know it separately.
There's a big ring of ice on my
So, May Porker is a scientist inventor pig. She invents a radioactive machine that helps like curl your hair, and it's radioactive, right?
Sure.
Or does
I'm
some-
with you so
yeah,
far.
it does some hair thing. So she zaps herself, and so she is radioactive. And on the wall is a spider watching this. So then she bites the spider, and so this spider is bitten by a radioactive pig, and the spider turns into a pig with spider powers, Peter Porker.
And then Aunt May, who has memory issues.
I don't know Spider-Man Noirs, but his is like a super dark one. I think there's like rape involved and stuff. And, like it's really terrible.
They don't cover that in the movie.
Rape and murder and
His obsession with the Rubik's cube, and he can't actually see the colors, so he just keeps
almost any story can be broken down into something very basic.
because it's the hero's origin story,
Yeah.
and he's being mentored. Like again, we've seen that before, but I felt like it was done original and like lighthearted enough, that it worked, even though it was a little bit predictable. Like if anything, again, as like an adult
Yes.
watching a kids movie, Not to
there's your
short,
yeah.
not to short sell it, but like I mean, it is the demographic is younger audiences. I would say, the story's a little bit predictable, but it still works because the script is written and it's well and it's funny.
Yes.
And again it's interesting to watch.
Yes.
If anything, I'd say like the third act is a little weak. Like I felt like the movie ends really fast. Like they do the final battle and it's just kind of done.
The weakest part for me is like, not that it ended slowly, but just like it was so like the fight scene was so other dimensional. Like there was no like ground anymore.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, it was very beautiful to look at.
Oh yeah, it's hard to like follow and like comprehend because they're not like they're jumping.
They're in like the
buildings
world
and
of
things.
in between worlds where like this building
Stuff is phasing in and out
Yeah.
and like imploding in on it. Like buildings are like collapsing in
Yeah.
on themselves. I also thought it was a little weird. Well, we're again nitpicking. I think the movie's great. I'm nitpicking. But the timing was a little weird. So it's sunset when they tie him up and leave him. And I knew exactly what they were doing. They're like, he just needs like a push to get him to. So he has a hard time using his powers, or not even mastering, like reliably using his different powers.
doing them on command, as the movie says. Yeah.
And so they're the rest of the spider people are gonna go fight. They have the climax of the movie, and he still can't reliably use his powers. So they're like, you're a danger to yourself, and they tie him up and they leave him. Which obviously what they're doing is getting him to activate his powers and then go find Aunt May to get.
Now, did you think they knew that, or do you think there was?
I think they absolutely did, because I think they even react when they see him. They're like, "Oh, you're here finally. It took you long enough." Like I think it was a 3D. I think it was a 4D chess move. And so he finally gets his suit, and that part where he jumps off the building is freaking great. In like slow motion when he first jumps off the building, he like takes his leap of faith after he gets his suit.
Oh yeah.
So again, I really like that part, but what I was going to complain about is there's a weird time differential, because that implies that whole time they were just like sitting around waiting for him. Like they have to have been, because it's like for him to spray paint the suit, let it dry. I know it's a movie. I know this is a nitpick. I really like the movie. Spray paint the suit, let it dry, screw around go up to a skyscraper, jump off, swing around a little bit, and then go meet them.
Yeah.
They would have just been waiting for him, like awkwardly outside. Maybe they were just planning their strategy for Kingpin's entrance, which leads me into my second nitpick, which was everyone's wearing Spider-Man. All the like maitre d's are wearing Spider-Man face masks, but like white suits otherwise, and like, well, this is super easy. And that one I'm not really willing to go with them on, because they're wearing full Spider-Man suits and they're all very different, as opposed to the maitre d's, which are all white suits with black pants and Spider-Man face masks. And I was like, yeah, you're stretching it a little bit. If they had worn like white suits or something, that could have worked.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do with like Spider-Ham and whatever, but that was they put them in like the cart.
Yes.
But even still, like if they had been wearing something that was semi-convincing, that was a bit of a stretch.
Yes.
It was still kind of a funny joke, because it was in really poor taste, because Kingpin was throwing like a gala.
Yeah.
Again, nitpicks. Really enjoyed the movie, but those were like, I felt like it was a little weaker in the third act. But yeah, the fight really difficult to explain. That's another one like I'd like to watch it again, because I feel like I could enjoy it more.
There's a lot of like moving like set like. The characters, like, obviously the camera,
colors are changing.
The camera follows the characters, but that's the only thing that's, like, consistent. But there's just so much else moving around.
Another thing I liked that the story did really well is they didn't, the MacGuffin of the USB drive, they didn't really spend a lot of time on that. It wasn't like, we gotta get this thing the whole movie.
Well, now there's gonna be a new word for it, the goober. Like, that's gonna be the new word.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, too. Again, like, making fun of the tropes is you had the Peter B, who was just, like, fed up with everything. And so he was very, like, not exactly meta, but like almost meta, where he was like, listen, I've done all this before. I've been through this before, and a lot of the characters are like, we've all been through this. Which gives Miles a little bit of an advantage, I'd say.
Oh, there's a final scene where like Gwen Stacy pops through the ceiling and is like, Miles, come here. So there's like,
I forgot about
there's a hit of that. Yes. So there's that.
The post credit scene.
Yes, where Spider-Man 2099 goes back to Universe 67 and does the meme With the pointing
The
Spider-Man.
old what year did that Spider-Man cartoon come out that
67.
everyone makes the memes of?
It's Spider-Man.
67?
Yeah, Spider-Man.
Oh,
67.
that's why it's 67.
That's right. It's Universe 67.
Right. Okay. I feel a little bit stupid. Really good soundtrack. Like I actually really liked it. It's
No, I
proof
did
that
too.
you can do a good rap soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like modern, if you will, like a good modern. Because usually I don't like when they like throw rap songs into things. Because
Yeah,
it kind of feels weird and
Yeah.
like. Again, it usually feels like out of place.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just the whiteness in me.
Yes.
But I
The
actually
White
really
North
like.
boy.
Yeah, I actually really liked this soundtrack, and it was like a clean. A lot of them were like original. I looked it up.
Yeah.
A lot of them were like original for the movie,
Yep.
and I thought it fit really well with Miles. It fit really well just in the movie,
Yeah.
and that whole like at the like animated portion of the credits was really cool, where it's just like a shattered mirror, and there's just so much going on, and
Yeah.
it's like tons of different spider people playing like
Oh, yeah.
foosball and
Yes.
stuff.
I love that part where it's just Peter Parker just singing his Christmas album.
Oh yeah, which they apparently released. There's like 5 songs for the
is
Christmas
there
album
really?
that exist that were made for the movie because they played like pieces of them.
Yeah.
But there actually is 5 songs, and like Chris Pine, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Chris Pine like sings one of them, and then Peter B. Parker sings another one. I don't remember who the voice is for
that's
Peter
funny.
B. Parker. Like sings another one.
Yeah.
Like they're actual songs, and you can download. I don't think it's free.
That's
Because it's Sony.
Yeah.
But so go watch it. Pay to go watch
Yeah.
it.
No,
'cause otherwise we're not gonna get this anymore.
No, there needs to be... See, like I've only heard like I guess I know like that it's a cartoon, so it's not as well. But I've only heard good things financially about it.
Well, I've only heard really, and it's not doing really badly financially. But again, like I don't want to see Dumbo do better than it because it's Dumbo.
Yeah.
Like the animated Dumbo is fine, but
You don't want to see Danny DeVito.
he's the only good part.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he's not going to be Danny DeVito because he's not going to be swearing or anything.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to see a Tim Burton Dumbo. I don't want to see a Tim Burton anything. He creeps me out. There's kids in his backyard.
Yes, but then the other like surprising thing is like this and then Venom, which are both very successful for Sony this year. Though Venom and Spider-Man and the Spiderverse have very different audiences and then reactions generally.
And yeah, so everything I've heard about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is very positive critically.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if you know this, but at the time of recording, I just checked it before we did. On IMDb, it's the 30th highest rated movie right now, which is insane.
I mean, things
'Cause-
always settle, but yeah.
Right. However, they usually blip up. So IMDb has a top 250 list, and I really like it. I hate Rotten Tomatoes, and I tend to agree more with the IMDb page, and I don't agree with everything that's on the top 250.
Yeah.
But a lot of them tend to be like, I think even there's only a couple Marvel movies on there, like Marvel properties,
Yeah.
and very few of them blip higher than like the 200 250 range.
Yeah.
Like most of them are within there, which I think is fair. They're
Yeah.
good, but they're still like superhero properties.
Yeah.
But like for it to hit 30,
Yeah.
it's still, even when it settles, I
Yeah.
would expect that it's still going to be pretty damn high.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about,
Yeah.
because like I wouldn't expect that at all from a animated Spider-Man movie from Sony.
Yeah.
Because Sony tends to make a lot of clunkers, but I think with the threat of Marvel taking the license or borrowing at this point
Yeah.
the license, it's really encouraging them to be creative, because
yeah.
if they don't want to lose it, they have to use it and do well with it.
Yeah.
Which they did not with Amazing Spider-Man. So I think that's encouraging them to kind of try new things. And I hope that they see the numbers and they go, yeah, this is a good thing, and we can keep doing this.
Yeah, no,
Because as long as they're going to keep doing this, they can keep the property. I don't care.
For the sake of completion, I want Spider-Man to be in the MCU, but I also have no problem with him being separate.
Down with Disney.
I think we're
down
all
with the mafia.
We're all sure enough now. We're all used to comic book movies and properties enough that we can handle 2 or 3 different versions of a character. Because there's also like the CW stuff, which your opinions may vary, which I used to like, though I haven't seen in quite a while. And so like, but there's 2 versions of the Flash, and so there's this, and I think there's gonna be a Batman now too, actually. But anyways, I think so. There's a Batwoman for sure, but I think they're introducing.
So they're kind of like easing.
They're easing into it, because there's
not Batgirl, Batwoman.
Batwoman.
Interesting.
The lesbian. We can handle 2 Spider-Man. Spider-Man, not Spider-Man.
Nailed it.
I did it.
Yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We're gonna try to be a little bit more regular with our content. We have a set now.
We do.
It's gonna get decorated, but we at least have somewhere to record. And
So
it's
you can
not
see
just
our
audio.
faces.
Our beautiful faces.
Well, maybe you, not me.
No.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Oh, my phone's ringing.
That's a wrap.